can have a lot of quirks in it, but I love the way that everyone's giving their, what I call 2 cents, probably a nickel. And I promise you that the next person who is going to speak as well is going to give us some great insight as well. And I know that many of you are probably fast friends with him, best friends with him, so this is not a new face that many of you are not familiar with. But what I also wanted to do is make sure he gets his proper introduction as well. So the next person that you are going to hear from is Mr. Evan Francen, who is the CEO of FRSecure and Security Studio. And I know that he's about to make his way down in just a second, but I think it's important for you to know exactly some of the things that he's accomplished over his incredible career. So Evan is the CEO and founder of FRSecure, as well as the founder of Security Studio. Throughout his 28+ years career in the information security, he has helped hundreds of businesses, small and large, advise legal counsel in high-profile breaches, including Target, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and served as an expert witness in several federal criminal cases. Evan is well-versed in governmental and industry-specific frameworks, regulations, standards, and guidelines. He has presented at hundreds of information security conferences and workshops, as well as topics ranging from social engineering to risk management to incident response. He has written more than 700 articles about various information security topics, as well as developed and taught numerous information security courses, including FRSecure's CISSP Mentor Program, a no-cost program that in 2023 reached 20,000 participants. Collectively, these accomplishments and a few others has all led to his mission, which is to fix the broken information security industry. This is a mission that requires the help of many like-minded people coming together as one. This cooperation is a central theme of his book, Unsecurity, and Evan is here to talk about something very important. I'm gonna say what the F, he might say the actual F word if you know him at all, but I'm gonna say what the F, and that's what he's gonna talk about. What the F is CISA doing? And that's what Evan's gonna talk about. So go ahead and put your hands together for Evan, as well as his super cool shoes.
Wherever I may roam.
This music. This is cool. She said a lot of words right there. Look, they filled me up with balls. Am I supposed to throw these? Throwing at you. Oh, right there, brother. I just hit you. It's gonna take a little while. Still have more balls. Oh, way up there? Seriously, brother? Sorry, it's the ball, not me. What the hell am I doing? All right. This is really weird. Being here in the Target Center, standing like on the floor, right? And I have a time limit? Shit. I should stand on the podium so you guys don't see my belly. All right, so yeah, so what'd you say, WTF? And it's like, okay, let me get to the warning first, hold on. The warning. This is, those who know me, no I don't, I'm not very politically correct. Yeah, there's one, thank you. And you know, I think being in this industry as long as I have, you know, I was at a conference last week in North Carolina, and I was telling the people that I could take the same exact slide deck of a presentation I gave 25 years ago, change the date, and give the same presentation today. And it would hold the same value. You guys would all get the same thing out of it. And so that's frustrating for a guy like me, whose mission really is to fix the broken industry. It's not, I'm done fucking around. I mean, I think we all should, because you're either gonna be forced to do these things, or you can choose to do these things. One of these is more painful than the other, right? So the warning, and I gotta justify like my potty mouth. I'm a dirty Christian. Do you guys know what that means? Like, I'm a Christian, but I swear a lot. You know, it's like a dirty Christian, so I have to ask for forgiveness a whole bunch of times and stuff. And the truth is, I mean, if you're a Christian, you're a dirty Christian too, right? So at least we got that in common. So the warning is this. I use colorful language, but I'm going to justify this for all you guys. There's been some studies, and I'm pretty jacked about this. When I saw this first study, I emailed it to my team. I was like, I fucking told you. I told you. So number one, it's healthy. That's really cool. So feel free to swear with me, because it's healthy. And number two, it's a sign of intelligence. So I'm healthy and intelligent, probably more so than most you fuckers out there. So the title of my deck is, what the fuck is CISA doing? And I think you could take this one of two ways. You could say, like, is he gonna be ripped? Because I did get some emails from CISA, whatever. You know, I'm not a federal government guy either. You know, I don't do a lot of work in the federal government on purpose, because I do like to make changes. So you could look at it this two ways. Like, is he going to rip on CISA? Or is he going to say, like, hey, I mean, seriously, what the fuck did they do? And it's going to be a little bit of both of that, right? The CISA folks that were emailing me, sort of like, hey, man, what's up? We're out there trying to build trust with everybody, and you're going to do this to us? Because I know a lot of these people. I'm like, why don't you just come to the conference and find out what I'm going to say? You know, I mean, I'm not going to hide anything from anybody. And so there's a little bit of both of that. You know, I think CISA, there's a lot of really, really good things that CISA is doing. There's a lot of really good things, good people that work at CISA. You know, I think you'll find in this presentation, if there's one central theme that sort of pisses me off about this, is the Washington involvement, where we're not really focusing, you know, on some of the most important things, in my opinion. But always open to your interpretation too, and always open to debate on any of these things. So there's our warning. Everybody cool with that? If you don't like swearing, then fuck you, sort of. I mean, in a nice way, though. I don't really mean it like that. So I'm critical. There's like some criticalness, and I'm 52 years old. I've been in this industry for 30 years. I'm frustrated, too. Oscar, did you do that? Is that you? Thank you for turning it off, brother. All right, so critical. If there's one thing I think that binds us, some of us know we're in this game for the right reasons, right? The right reasons is not to see what I can do to get money from you. That's easy. The name of the game is to help people. This is a service industry. There are lots of people. I have a saying that I use all the time, that information security is not about information or security as much as it is about people. It's a people thing, right? People are the ones who cause the problems that we deal with. Right? And it's not just the stupid users who click. That's not the people I'm talking about. I'm talking about the admins who can't configure a server correctly. There were a lot of basic stuff that was talked about by some of the previous speakers. I grew up a network guy. One of the things that is such a peeve for me is people who don't know how to use a firewall. Right? You guys all heard about the SolarWinds attack? That was supposed to be like the most famous attack ever or something like that. Do you know that there was one government agency that had the infected code that mitigated the attack? Do you guys know which agency that is? It was the IRS. I'm like, son of a bitch. That's kind of the one I didn't want to mitigate the attack. But the reason why they mitigated that attack was because they had blocked egress traffic on the firewall. So many people focus on ingress, right? Data that I allow into the firewall, and we forget about the egress. Firewalls, if you're going to use them properly, it's ingress and egress, right? So there's no product I need to buy to mitigate the most sophisticated attack that ever lived or something. I needed to use a firewall right. You know, so that's a peeve for mine. So on this point, we're all in this game to help people, right? And to protect people. There's one thing that pisses me off, it's people taking advantage of other people. And so that's why this CISA thing irritates me a little bit. Two types of people that I found in this industry. There's people, I think, in terms of people that take advantage of other people, there's the people that overtly are here to take advantage of other people, right? They're the ransomware gangs, the Eastern Europeans, nation state shit, whatever, right? They don't hide the fact that that's what they're trying to do. And then there's the other, which is a little bit more covert, right? It's people that sell you shit that you don't need, that you don't know how to use, that doesn't work. AI that isn't really AI. Right, so there's, on both sides of this equation, I call them the wolves in sheep's clothing. Make sense? So far, so good. So some things to say about wolves. In this industry, there are people who know that there are wolves. There are people that don't know that there are wolves. And there's some people really never even thought about it. Like, am I a wolf or am I not? Now, what we do at FRSecure, and one of the things I think that we use to keep us honest, is everything we do, we need to ask ourselves, honestly, is what I'm about to do going to help fix the broken industry, or is it going to make it worse? There's a saying at FRSecure, we've never had to prove it yet, which is cool, that if you sell a customer something they don't need, I'll run you over with my truck. Right? Thank God I haven't had to do that. At the time, I was driving in an F-250, so I can get over some pretty big people, you know, with that. Now, John Harmon's got the truck. He's out in Montana, so we still have the truck, and the rule still applies. We want to hold ourselves honest and accountable to this stuff. So for these ones, the people that know that they're wolves in sheep's clothing, that are out there taking advantage of other people, these ones need to be hunted. And it's up to us, right? I mean, I can call them out, and I could use names. I'm not going to do that here. God, I want to, but I'm not. Shit, no, I'm not going to. Not here. Because some of you might work there. You'd be like, hey, wait, I really like Google. You know, I like working at Google and Mandiant and Microsoft and stuff. So we're not going to call those people out. And then we have, oh shit, I went too fast. And then you have the people that don't know that they're wolves. Our job as people who have been in this industry for a while, that are in this game for the right reasons, and it is this cut and dry. It is this black and white, right? Are you making things better? Or are you making things worse? And I get, we all make mistakes. I mean, I've learned probably 90% of what I know from making mistakes. I've broken more things than I've fixed over the years. These people that don't know where they're at, these are the people that we need to help. We need to educate. We need to get them on our side, right? So we can, I mean, you could sit here and continue to make shitloads of money fixing shit that other people broke, but that's not why I'm here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to earn money that way. I want to earn money where I'm actually providing value. And that's some of what we're going to get to with CISA. Some of the basic fundamental shit that we need to do in this country that we're not doing. And we need to at least know about it for now. So CISA, I'm not saying they're wolves, all right? So let's get that straight. There are lots of people at CISA that I think are doing a great job. I think behind CISA, there's a lot of really good motivation. You know Washington, D.C., right? It's dirty. There's a lot of money. And there's a lot of power. And that's what happens with, you know, I think with the federal government. So CISA, I'll just give you a little background on CISA, a little history first. CISA came from, originally it was NPPD, 2007. It kind of grew out of that. It wasn't until 2018 when we signed this new law. And the law was the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency Act of 2018. That was the birth of CISA. Brian Krebs, and I'm not getting political. Politics is bullshit. You know, I don't want to get there. Was he good? Was he bad? The whole Trump thing, I don't know. I do security stuff. Security's not political. So Brian Krebs, he was the first, you know, CISA director. The purpose is this: identify and assess terrorist threats. That's a good thing, I think. Performance of risk assessments. That's what I'm going to key on a little bit. Make recommendations, including prioritization, protective measures, all that stuff. Comprehensive national plan. All sounds really good. In my opinion, those are great things, especially this one. But why this one? The name of this game, information security, the game that we're all playing, whether you want to play it or not, this is risk management. It's not risk elimination. That's impossible. You are going to have breaches, right? That's part of the game. What are you going to do about those? Are you going to detect those breaches, and are you going to respond to them appropriately? This is a risk management game. Where you spend your next information security dollar is on your most significant unacceptable risk. It's that simple. If you don't know what your most significant unacceptable risk is, well, then you have some work to do, right? So that's a big one for me. So the purpose continued, a whole bunch of blah, blah, blah. It's a law. Are any of you lawyers? Would you admit it if you were a lawyer? Any of you law enforcement? You know you got to tell me, right? All right, so we're cool here. So anyway, it brings us now 2020. We've got this rumor control. We've got all this other stuff. Jen Easterly, you know, she's doing, I think, the best job that she can do, possibly. with CISA. They do a hell of a lot of things, like a ton of things. Have you ever been to the CISA's website? Do you guys know what CISA is? Sometimes I just assume this stuff. In a talk that was given last week too, was it was a CEO conference, and one of the CEOs said, I don't want to ask a stupid question. I'm like, you're a CEO of a company, so I'm assuming you're not stupid, right? So you feeling like you're asking a stupid question kind of tells me that maybe I'm not resonating. Maybe maybe we come off like we're intimidating, like we speak a language, we're smarter than they are, I don't know. But Jen Easterly, awesome. If you've been to CISA, CISA is the federal agency. They call themselves America's cyber agency. And they do a whole bunch of things. If you've been to their website before, CISA.gov, you'll find a whole bunch of things that they do, right? Topics, all kinds of things that they can do to help you, career stuff, resources and tools, training, I mean, best practices. Who doesn't want best practices? If I were to ask you today, that'd be cool. I'd like to do that sometime. If I took a poll from this group, a lot of you guys are in information security, right? And so if I told you, give me 5. Actually, let's break it, but give me 3. Give me 3 best practices, the 3 most important information security best practices. I wonder what you'd come up with. I wonder if it'd be different than mine. We do a lot of that too. One of the things that I was talking about, I had a friend of mine, I don't know if he's a friend anymore, because I don't think he liked what I said, but he said, we posture a lot in our industry, like my shit doesn't stink, like I'm better than you, I'm security stuff, whatever, which is such crap because I think it's intimidating for people that want to get into this industry, whatever. So we were in one of those situations, and he said to me, well, some of you might know who this person is when I tell you more, but he was bragging about what does he do? He's consulted the last 4 presidential administrations on how to protect critical infrastructure. That's what he was bragging about. I said, damn, that's awesome. Let me ask you, has the security of critical infrastructure gotten any better since you started consulting presidents? That's when I don't think we became friends anymore. Because it hasn't. And why hasn't it? Well, what have we done, right? Let's take, let's take NIST CSF. When we talk about critical infrastructure, pick one. Let's pick water plants, right? So I go to a water plant manager and I say, hey, you really need to get information security right. Here's NIST CSF. What the fuck? What the hell is he gonna do with that? I think most security people don't even understand NIST CSF, and you're gonna give it to a water plant manager? He's gotta make sure that he gets clean water to everybody. What I've learned in that is really, I can ask you to do 2 things. Maybe 3. Beyond that, it's overwhelming. You've got other things to do, right? So what are the 3 things? So then I started a conversation with others. If we were gonna protect critical infrastructure, give me 3 things. 3, that's it. And I talk to security people and they always wanna give me 5, 10. It's like, just shut up already. 3, just give me 3 things. And we couldn't agree on the 3 things. I've talked to, I don't know how many information security people about this same thing. In my opinion, the 3 things: map the attack surface, lock down anything that's got single-factor authentication or turn it off, and lock down egress. That would be my 3 things. And the reason why is because the attack surface, the number one way most attackers get in, the slide, I think the deck before the last deck, was really telling because that is it, ports, right? What am I just hanging out there? 3389, 1433 with SQL, I mean, you name it. It's really easy. We make it really easy. And a lot of us don't even know. We don't even know what we're making available to attackers. So that's why I'd start with the attack surface. Single-factor authentication, super easy, right, to bypass. Even though multi-factor isn't a silver bullet, because you'll never find a silver bullet for anything, it makes it a little more difficult, especially the money-motivated attackers, because the money-motivated attackers want return on investment, right? And then I like egress, because if I was in critical infrastructure, I'd lock down egress on the firewall, because it would tell me a whole hell of a lot about what's already in my environment, right? If I've got data flows, traffic outbound, command and control traffic, there's somebody already there. Well, great, let's start a threat hunt on that. So anyway, they do lots of things. Best practices, all this good stuff, services. You gotta give them credit. It's a hell of a lot of shit. To me, and I'm a security guy, when I look at all the things that they do, I'm confused. I can only imagine what somebody who's not in our industry thinks about these things. It's a lot of stuff. We can't do it all. You have to meet them where they're at. Give me 2 things, give me 3 things. Don't give me 1,000 things. It's already confusing enough for me. So more CISA stuff, they do a whole bunch of stuff, and a lot of it seems like good stuff. I'm not gonna rip on any of it. We could take each one and dissect it and find out what things are good, what things are not good. I think the thing is, it's overwhelming. It's confusing. Where do I start? Give me one thing. Any of you CEOs ever given a presentation to a CEO or board of directors before? One of the things they always want to know, one thing. Evan, give me one thing I can do. And we've always responded with, well, there isn't one thing. But there is one thing, the first thing. Then there'll be another one thing, and there'll be another one thing. That's what the answer. What's the one thing? And that's where we need to focus our time. So lots of confusion. So how are we doing? Let's talk about other stuff. This is not stuff I wrote. This is just reference stuff, and so it's one perspective. Internal divisions, morale problems, leadership priorities, what God knows. It's the federal government. What do you expect? There's a whole bunch of strife, but you never know, right? This could be somebody who's a former employee of CISA who just, talking smack. I get it. But you have to take some of it into account. None of us share anything anymore. JCDC, you guys know what JCDC is? Okay, offline, we'll talk about JCDC. I could go down a rabbit hole with JCDC. It's a joint commission of information IT companies that CISA put together to advise CISA on what to do with information security stuff. The problem is, when you look at our industry, a lot of the people that are in JCDC, a lot of the people that are very influential in information security in the federal government are the cause of our problems, right? I mean, you look at, shit, I just patched Apple again today. Any of you guys Apple users? 1703 is out. 17.03, that's the iOS version. That just came out, 0-day, whatever. I just did 1702 like 2 days ago. I did 1701 like 2 days before that. It'd be nice if we created some secure software to begin with. So then there's this. You guys read about this or heard about this, about CISA and shit. It's the federal government, man. Everything's like so funky up there. So the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, and I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, the fact of the matter is we all suffer when we can't get this shit straight. So there's allegations, and I guess truth to some of it, that CISA was involved in their election security parts. Whether the motivation was to censor or not censor, they were encouraging, Twitter, Facebook to take some action on some misinformation, right? Now that seems outside, we're pushing the limits now of what the purpose and the mission is for CISA, which is what you'd expect anyway, because this will become politicized. So anyway, all that stuff happened. Misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. I don't know the difference between that shit, but that's whatever. This was what was telling for me, though. There was a quote from Jen Easterly about part of critical infrastructure is to secure cognitive infrastructure. Does anybody here know what the fuck cognitive infrastructure is? I'm having enough trouble securing technical infrastructure. I'm having enough trouble trying to get people. Cognitive infrastructure is a new thing for me. There's some truth to it, but whenever you have the federal government or you have anybody who's in authority start using the word cognitive infrastructure and that they want to secure my cognitive infrastructure, that's a red flag. I don't know what you mean by that. When you talk about misinformation, and I had a good talk last week, the CISO office from Google, and we were talking about AI, we were talking about bias, we're talking about the things that they're doing around misinformation, malinformation. I didn't come away from that feeling any more comfortable about this. right? And I think what I need as a consumer is I need data. I don't need information. Do you know the difference between data and information? Information is an interpretation of data. I don't want an interpretation, I want the data. We ran into that with COVID a lot, right? We got information, I want data, right? And so the same thing applies here. We talk about misinformation, malinformation, data, that's what I need, and transparency would certainly help. So anyway, CISA's gone here now, and I think they've since pulled back because the government or the courts sort of forced them to, but even that got politicized. Because the 3-judge panel that maintained the injunction that, essentially keeping CISA from engaging with big tech companies and having them take action against malinformation, misinformation, even that, the 3-judge panel were all, I guess, appointed by Republicans. So even that's become politicized. So anyway, CISA is what CISA is. So how are they doing? The question, for me, the one that I'm really interested in, is has information security or is information security getting any better in our country because of CISA? Some people would argue it has, some people would argue it hasn't, but I think that's the argument. And I think that's the discussion we all should be having. We pay a lot of money for CISA. Is information security better or worse? Well, here's the fact. Anybody know how much we've spent on CISA since 2018? Anybody want to guess? You can shout it out. I don't have any more balls to throw at you, but 13 billion. $13 billion. Do you guys have budgets? What could you do with $13 billion? I'll show you what I did with $250. That's sort of the point here. So that's the budget. And this is a way a lot of people measure. So when I ask you, yourself, internalize this. When I ask you, what's the current state of information security in your organization? What's your answer? Good, bad, I don't know. Is it a number? Is there some quantification of that? We're now at this point in kind of our maturity where we should have something. We should be able to answer that question. Because how will I know if these dollars are making security better or making security worse? That's the question. And so in all of this, that's our budget, all of that, and we never even had a strategic plan. There was no strategy. We dumped a whole shitload of money into CISA, and now we do have a strategy, thank God, but it wasn't until this last 12 months. Do you know anybody that you can go get like $10 billion from without any strategy on how you're going to spend it? I want this budget. We could have airplanes. We could fly airplanes together. Anybody who knows me knows that would be fun as shit. Go-karts everywhere. I don't know, motorcycles. 13, that'd be awesome. I want to work at CISA. So no surprise that they do a lot. They do a lot. And I'm not saying they misspent the money either, but what we don't have is any accountability for the money. One of the things I hear a lot from information security people all the time, actually, I don't have enough budget. I don't have enough budget. I don't have enough staff. You know what the problem is? You didn't justify your damn budget. You didn't justify your staff. Ask a CISO. Any of you CISOs? Are you afraid to? You might be afraid to raise your hand now. But a CISO, what does a CISO do? If I ask you, a CISO, what do you do? What's your job? It's two things. It's really simple. Keep things simple. You consult the business to make good risk decisions, and you implement those risk decisions. That's it. There's a whole bunch of shit that goes to support that. So when I'm consulting the business to make good risk decisions, part of that is my budget. It's a justified budget. It's staff. So a lot of times when we fail to speak the language of business, man, I got stories there too about speaking the language of business. That's a buzz phrase. Speak the language of business. I was on a CIO panel. I was the only security guy there. CIOs, and they were all talking about speaking the language of business, and I wasn't saying a word. And then they realized I wasn't saying a word. They said, Evan, what do you think? I'm like, none of you speak the language of business. Like, whoa, what do you mean? I'm like, you take orders. You're just kind of an order taker because a lot of you complain about you can't keep up with the tech debt. You can't keep up with the unrealistic demands of business for IT. And the reason why it kind of sucks for me is because in a lot of places, the CISO reports to the CIO. So if you're not speaking the language of business, how can I speak the language of business when you're filtering everything for me? That's a challenge for me. One of the classes we just created is information security budgeting. Any of you done budgeting before? Like justified budgets, not shitty budgets. Like a budget that'll get approved. And the class was, so if my job is to consult you to do information, to make good risk decisions, you will make the risk decisions, the business, through my consultation as your CISO. Those risk decisions that you made, accept, mitigate, transfer, and avoid, some of those are going to require an action and some of those are going to require an investment. That's the justification for my budget, right? So anyway, I could get, the language of business, by the way, Warren Buffett said it. The language of business is accounting. The language of business is accounting. How many security leaders know how to speak accounting? Fucking CPAs, man. We have to learn accounting. I mean, speak money. You'll find that in most businesses, most organizations, there's one of three motivators for your leaders. There's buckets. I always think buckets. One bucket is money, the second bucket is ego, the third bucket is mission. One of the three of those buckets is going to be dominant in the leader that you're speaking to. If you can figure that out, which you should be able to figure that out, your budget will probably get approved because you'll put it in their language. Just tips. I'm not even going to charge you for that shit. And if you don't like this talk, that's really cool too, because you can send me back to Mexico tomorrow. So I'm totally cool with that. All right, so anyway, strategic plan, lots of stuff. Tackling risk is right. This is the right answer. Risk management, risk decisions. You make risk decisions all the time. This is what security is. Just because you've got the greatest vulnerability in the world, if there's no threat, who gives a shit? There's no risk. The same applies the other way. All the threats in the world, no vulnerability, again, no risk. Why waste my time? The art is finding out what the vulnerabilities are, those are your weaknesses, finding out what your threats are, and from that, combining those into a likelihood and impact, and that's your risk. That's the art, right? And then making those risk decisions. So risk management, totally cool. Whole bunch of political BS, and I mean, right? Anybody read this? Political stuff and marketing stuff, a lot of marketing stuff. North Star, I don't know what North Star is, but it sounds cool. There's a mission there. The good is we acknowledge that information security is risk management. That's awesome, and it always has been that. The bad is we don't understand our risks. When you look at the nation, what are our most significant risks? There's no shortcut here. There's no, magic pill that you need to take. If you want to know what your most significant risks are, you need to do a risk assessment. Not one of those shitty kinds of risk assessments where there's really nothing actionable or it's not credible. I don't know what to do with this information, but a good risk assessment that forces risk decisions. So in our nation, yeah, that's a whole bunch of risk assessments, and it seems overwhelming. And I already said this, that's where you spend your next dollar. Everything else is window dressing. So more the vision, everything leads from goal to that. I could totally buy into this. More read, if you want to read it, all good stuff. 2022 year in review, this is what they did last year. 416 vulnerability advisories. This is last year. This year they've kicked the crap out of this. They got $3.1 billion, so let's hope they can kick the crap out of this. 50 agencies. And if you've been watching some of the federal government stuff, the State Department, they were just cited by the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, for having like really, really bad security stuff. So CISA's still got work to do on a lot of that Subcommittee meetings, a whole bunch of shit, man. 19 actionable recommendations, 100 private sector companies, Summit School Safety, stuff and more stuff, JAM-X, because God knows that's our most significant risk, is JAM-X, jamming signals, I guess. More really cool shit, man. I mean, 1,830 chemical facility anti-terrorism things. It's a whole bunch of stuff, man. I don't know what this does for risk assessments. I don't know what this does for really asking that question. Where is my most significant risk? Where should I be pouring my next dollar? It's probably somewhere in all of this. This was a little bit disappointing. So CISA regional offices, there are regions all throughout the country. Really good people that work there. Really good people. But out of all of that, only 194 incidents last year. Just FRSecure, what, 50, 60 somewhere? 55? You know, so anyway, more. Secure the vote, because do you know, shit, I don't want to go there. The election system that's been oversold a little bit. The fear there, anyway, another side conversation, I don't want to go there. I told you they do a lot, they do a lot. Risk analysis, they do have risk assessments, and this is what they've done in last 2022. All that money, we got 121 risk assessments completed last year. And I would assume, I hope that these risk assessments are risk assessments that are actually quantitative, meaning we can do comparisons. The simple things, we overcomplicate everything in this industry. It's crazy. Like measurements. Like one of the measurements that we use is called S2 score, right? And then you've got FAIR. You guys have heard of FAIR as a risk assessment methodology that creates quantitative values. The stupid thing that we do a lot is argue about which measurement is better, right? If you think like measurement, like take distance, you have an inch and you have a meter or the metric system, right? And we complain, you know, you argue like, well, an inch is better than a millimeter or whatever. It doesn't really matter. What we need is a translation between the two. So if you're using one and I'm using another, how do we translate between the two? Because I wouldn't want you to start changing your measurements to meet my measurements, because then we're just going to get into this pissing contest. So with those 121 risk assessments, I'd be interested to know what the most significant risks were out of those. What were the values? You know, if we rate something on a scale of 300 to 850, that's where we typically do it. And the reason why we ended up here is we started using words like guarded, moderate, high. And everybody's like, the hell does that mean? It's too subjective, right? So then we went A, B, C, D, F. And you know what boards were telling us then? Well, C's get degrees. Like, shit, we missed on that one too. So the mistakes, right, that you make along the way. So 300 to 850, or whatever quantitative value, what's the value here? So that if we're spending this kind of money, the $3.1 billion, did the number go up? Did it go down? Did it stay about the same, right? So it seems, I don't know, it seems overwhelming, I guess. But that's the thing about information security, is we're all going to have to work together to come up with a solution to this. This is supposed to be commodity stuff. It's not supposed to be where you spend all your budget. A risk assessment should be something that's a starting point so that you can save your budget to build the program. So when you look at this, in either case, my opinion, have they improved information security in the country or not? Even if they have, then the next question is it fast enough? You know we have nation-state adversaries, don't you? I remember the first time we started talking about cyber war, and everybody's like, oh, scary shit. Okay, but it's real shit. You know, I mean, Chinese people don't like us. The people might, the government doesn't. North Korea, Iran, they don't like us. So anyway, in my opinion, all of this stuff, what is the current state of security in the United States today? That's the discussion, that's the debate. What is the current state? Very complicated when you look at it, right? The United States is a very complex entity, right? You've got state governments, I mean, just in the public sector, you've got state governments, county governments, municipalities, boards and commissions, critical infrastructure, on and on and on. K-12, public higher education. I need to account for that. If I were going to get the current state of security in the United States, it would take all that work, right? But CISA, with that kind of budget, I think maybe it could go here. So can it be answered? The question, absolutely it can. How many of you worked in big companies and had to build security programs for big companies? A friend of mine at Cargill, I asked him, what's your most significant, like, what's your challenge here? I've never been in your seat. It's got to be pretty hard. Cargill is like a really, really big company. And he said accountability. Without hesitation, he said it was accountability. I'm like, well, explain more. And he said, well, we don't have visibility into all the things that happen here with information security. And so we whiteboarded for like an hour. I have 5 more minutes, but I'm going to talk for 20. I'm a boss and shit, you guys. Come on, cut me some slack. Right? I mean, are you going to kick me out to Mexico? Please? I'd like that. All right, so anyway, the thing about complexity, because complexity is the worst enemy everywhere with information security. The more complex you make something, the harder it is for me to secure. Right? So when you buy more technology, there might be a noble reason why you're buying more technology, but I need to account for that. It makes it more difficult for me to secure. When you look at asset management, I'm guessing all of you have awesome asset management programs, right? You all know what it is you're protecting. I don't know how we can protect something if you don't even know what it is we're protecting. So when you talk about asset management, hardware, software, data, make it simple. Hardware, that's pretty easy. Software, less easy. Data, this is where, no, you're probably not there. But you have to get the first two, I think, before you get the third. So, and for us as information security people, if you want to speak the language of business, let's go back to accounting. If I do an asset inventory of an organization that hasn't done one or doesn't have one, do you think I'm going to find legacy hardware? Do you think I'm going to find software that you're not using, that you don't need, that's got duplication? Awesome, because if I get rid of half of that shit, that makes my job as security a lot easier. The attack surface internally is a lot different. So I've reduced risk, and at the same time, I've now provided value to the business. Right? Going back to accounting, I just saved us a whole bunch of money. In some cases, 6 figures, 7 figures. A lot of money. It takes work, though. I don't know, maybe some people don't like work. So complexity, if I was going to take something complex and I was going to secure it, I have to break it down into its less complex components. So if you take the state of Minnesota, for instance, if I were to give you that value, what's the current state of security in the state of Minnesota today, which was a question I posed to the Blue Ribbon Commission on IT for the state of Minnesota, who makes recommendations to the governor. If I ask you that question, I know you don't have an answer, but I would need to break this down into less complex components. So counties, agencies, boards and commissions, just break it down into its less complex components, do information and security assessments in those components, roll it all up. And I could have a value. And that's what we need to do. So aggregation, less complex components. Take one example. I'll give you Project Broken Mirror. This is what I do. I'm weird, like really weird. I don't like talking here. I don't like I like some of you. I'm an introvert. I like being in my hole, doing weird things that I do. So one of the things I did, I was curious. I preach it, but can I solve the damn problem? Like if I were going to pose a question to you and just pose it just a bitch, that doesn't help anybody. What's a solution? Can I solve it? And so that's what I did. I started with my own county when I lived here in Minnesota. I started with Carver County. That's where I lived. I wanted to know what the attack surface was for Carver County. Just curious. And I got the results. I was like, okay, I don't know if that's good or bad. How does it compare to others? You have to put it into context. So then I did the other 86 counties. There's 87 counties in the state of Minnesota. So then I had the attack surface for every county in the state. None of this is illegal. It's all publicly available. And the purpose here was this is what we look like to our attackers, to our adversaries. And then Oscar, he's like, well, I wonder what Kentucky looks like. I'm like, shit. There's 112 counties in Kentucky. So I did Kentucky, and then next thing I know, we did 3,141 counties, and this is what it looked like. This is what weird people like me do. Because I care, I really care. I want to secure this country. It can be done, but we have to focus on it, right? And this is just attack surface, right? Nothing internal. But if I were to start somewhere when building a security program, if I were to start somewhere with zero trust, I could argue that this would be where I'd start. Attack surface, lock things down, and then I'd probably go egress, right? Because at least I've got a boundary, right? Not talking about all the other cloud shit and other stuff, but I need to start somewhere. So that's what it looks like. That's the current state of security we're getting closer, right? This is the current state of security in terms of counties, attack surface, but it's a start, right? We need to just continue down this path. This is the counties that need help. Just break it down. And this is the first iteration, right? Anytime you start a methodology, you start something new, you'll look back at this 3-5 years from now and be like, man, that was some shit back then. But you just start, right? And that's the same thing I think with most of us when we do information security things. We get kind of this paralysis, like it's got to be perfect out of the gate. It's whatever, it's never perfect. Just start it. So that's what I did. All of this was me. And I'm not touting my own horn because I don't care about that. It was me from Mexico, some VPSs, virtual private servers, and $250. And then you go from there. And so the thing with Project Broken Mirror that I want to use this for is this is a community effort. This isn't me. I don't want it to be me. I want us to do this, right? So starting to get people involved in how do we attack, because next we need to go K-12, cities. There are 800 cities in like the state of Minnesota. I don't know how many K-12 school districts there are, but they need our help. It's going to take us as a community without any bias, I don't want us to sell you anything. And even when you find like the counties, you can see my Carver County, they've since gotten green. Yay, Carver County. The thing here is not to shame these people, right? I don't know if you know county folks, but they're good people. So I'm not going to come in and shame you for being red, but we need to help you get green. And that's kind of the thing that I think MNCCC, that's the next initiative for the state of Minnesota, is for us to, they actually came up with the campaign. I can't read that far. I don't have my glasses. Still not reading that. Yeah, I don't get it. No, not resonating. No, you're moving it now. I can't. No. So, lady there doing things. So that's the point with all this. So suggestions for CISA. What's the current state of information security in the United States? And this is where we need to go. We can start with the attack surface if you want to, but we just got to start somewhere. If the problem is getting all these people to do risk assessments, which they're sort of trying to do, we got to move faster, because the real challenge here with all of us is we adopt new technology much faster than our ability to use it responsibly. So as we continue, and yeah, it takes time, as we continue taking time to get these things done, we're pushing the ball further and further out. Right? So there are solutions, there are ways to solve this problem, but it takes us, it's okay to say no. Like FOMO, I think FOMO is bullshit. Fear of missing out, like, oh my God, we need AI. Do you need AI? I think you've been doing pretty good just as you are. Why don't you get your shit together right now and then think of new technologies that you can bring into the environment and leverage. You're not gonna miss out. AI is not going anywhere. It's still gonna be there. And when you can figure out how to use it in your business responsibly, that's when you decide to use it, right? So all that stuff, whole of information security empowerment, this is just another methodology for developing how to secure a state. If you're interested in it, you can read it later. I don't care. Yeah, not to shame cities, K-12. We need to do all that stuff, and that's all I got. So anyway, CISA, good people. So what the fuck is CISA doing? They're doing a whole bunch of shit. I think we can come together alongside CISA, provide some additional value, because CISA is not going to solve your damn problems. CISA is not responsible for your information security. You are. So putting CISA in the right context, I think, will help you out a lot. That's all I got to say. Now I'm going to go take a nap. Thank you.